My work is pretty broad-ranging, so when I thought about what I wanted to present today, I assumed that most of the alumni would be clinicians, and so I tried to bring together a bunch of findings from our basic research in the development of social cognition that would be interesting for clinicians. So, together with Candy Peterson, Mark Nielsen, Thomas Suddendorf, and all of our students, I work on social cognitive development from infancy up to about middle childhood. Now, when we deal with other people, we have two different ways of approaching our interactions with other people. And you can't completely separate them the way I've done here, because all of our interactions involve both of these processes. But from a research perspective and a developmental perspective, it is useful to think about these as two different processes. One thing we do when we interact with other people is automatically and intuitively resonate to their experience or empathize with them. We do this even if we don't know the people. We do it even if we're not directly in contact with the people. So for instance, if you are waiting at a bus stop and you look across the street and you see a woman twist her ankle and fall over, you'll immediately resonate to her experience. You'll feel for her twisted ankle and for her hurt feelings. This is an automatic process, doesn't seem to take a lot of cognitive effort, and it's present in infancy. So for instance, little babies in a nursery, when they hear another baby cry, they'll begin to cry, and this seems to be part of this automatic empathizing that we do with other people. So that's one way that we deal with others. A more complex way that we deal with others is by working out or reasoning what they're thinking, what they want, what they're intending. And this is what, for the last 25 years or so, has been referred to as theory of mind. Now, it probably depends to a certain extent on empathizing, but it's different in that it's effortful, for one thing. We know that people under cognitive load take more time to perform tasks that require theory of mind type reasoning as opposed to simple empathizing. And we also know that it develops rather slowly over the course of the first 5 years of life or so, and it's dependent upon language. So to give an example of this kind of reasoning, if you're standing at the bus stop and a woman across the street breaks into a Broadway show tune and starts tap dancing, you wouldn't immediately feel her experience. You'd start questioning, why is she doing that? Does she just feel really good today? Does she think that's a good way to get a recording contract? Is she practicing for an upcoming audition? You would work through a series of, if you like, mental calculations that would all focus on predominantly what's going on in her mind relative to her history and the situation and what you know about people in general. So we've got these two ways of understanding other people and dealing with other people, and we can put them all together under the rubric of social cognition. And we're interested in social cognitive development. So how do children get to having these multiple ways of dealing with others? Lots of our work over the last several years has focused on individual differences, particularly individual differences in the theory of mind reasoning. The reason this is important is because what we know is that children who develop a theory of mind skill, children who are good at working out other people's feelings and intentions and thoughts earlier than their peers, show good social outcomes. Now, these are generally pretty small effects. Theory of mind reasoning doesn't account for all of the individual differences we see in children's ability to function in their social world, but it's a consistent effect. So children who are good at working out what's in other people's minds are also good at keeping secrets. And that's obviously a useful skill to have in primary school. They're good at persuading. They're good at talking other people into things. We're doing a series of studies on this right now. And children of the same age are quite different in the number of persuasive arguments they can come up with in a situation with a peer. And those who have a higher theory of mind skill are much more versatile in their persuasive tactics and more persuasive, ultimately. And deception. So all of these things correlate with theory of mind. You might think deception, maybe that's not so good. But in fact, there's positive social outcomes for deception. White lying is one example. Children who are higher on theory of mind, 4- and 5-year-old children, are better at expressing, say, happiness when they open a gift and they're disappointed by it. So they deceive in order to operate effectively in their social world. We also know that children, when they enter school, if their theory of mind skills are a little bit superior to that of their peers, then they tend to sort of float to the top and become more popular. Children who are highly empathic are also popular. So both of those sides of social cognition are important. And then we know that the children who are higher on theory of mind in school are also rated by their teachers as being more socially mature, better able to function within their peer groups. So as I say, they're fairly small effects, but they're really consistent. And so what this tells us is that children who more quickly and efficiently master this theory of mind, this way of working out what other people are doing, they get a bit of a social head start, particularly when they first go into school. And then what happens is that you get these feedback loops. So the children who start school with a good theory of mind, they're good at not blurting out things that will hurt other people's feelings. They're good at playing hide and seek. They're good at persuading. They become popular. And then everybody invites them to their parties. Everybody wants to be their friend. They get this wide variety of social experiences, which just feeds into their developing sophistication. So if you start out on a good foot, then good things come to you socially. And we know that those children who are relatively low on theory of mind, they have fewer opportunities to build it because they're not as popular, they're not as sought out, and ultimately can even become rejected within their peer groups, which has all sorts of negative implications down the track. So some of our work has been trying to establish what individual differences in theory of mind reasoning and empathy correlates with. And now some of our other work has been on trying to determine what it is that allows those children who have the good theory of mind skills to have them by the time they're 3, 4, and 5 years old. So what is it about certain children that makes them more socially adept, better able to work out what's in other people's minds? Language is the most consistent predictor. In every single study, pretty much, a child's language ability is fairly highly correlated with his ability to work out what's in other people's minds. So we think that the reason this is that while empathizing can be done non-verbally, it's just an intuitive resonating to other people,